already, guys. All righty, it is 5 o'clock. It is now July 13th, not the 12th. And we'll take another run at starting the meeting. We are the Carmel-by-the-Sea City Council, and if we could get a quorum check.
Councilmember Barron?
Here.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Here.
Councilmember Tice?
Here.
Mayor Potter?
Yeah.
And let the record show Mayor Pro Tem Richards is absent. We have a quorum.
Much appreciated. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we have two elements of extraordinary business. I believe we have a 3Cs presentation. Is Catherine Stedman around? Catherine, are you on Zoom World? I know you were last night.
Mayor, I believe Ms. Romero spoke with her today and she was aware of the meeting.
I know. My wife met her for lunch today, too. So, well, we can see if we can do a digitizing and scanning presentation.
We're not going to do that one because
Brandon's at the planning commission.
yeah, Mr. Swanson's in the planning commission.
Sorry,
We'll push that exciting item off till
Okay,
later.
then let me. All right.
Then we can do announcements, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Well, why don't we go to public? Yeah, he's
The
at the
planning commission,
meeting.
ma'am.
How about if we go to public appearances first? Why don't we go to public appearances? There's an opportunity for any member of the public to comment on an item that is not on tonight's agenda. 3-minute limitation on that testimony. If you'd state your name for the record, I'd appreciate it.
All
Welcome.
right. Good
Hi.
evening, everybody. I'm Beth Bowman, the Managing Director of the Sunset Cultural Center. Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and members of the public. I'm here today on behalf of SCC's board members, staff, partners, and patrons to thank you for the ongoing support through the operating and the capital improvement projects budgets. It's our honor to continue managing and operating the historic Sunset Center for City of Carmel-by-the-Sea residents and visitors. The Sunset Presents 19th season opens in September with a beautifully diverse lineup. Tickets are available. There's more information on our website. Currently, the Carmel Bach Festival is about to open their 85th festival tomorrow night. So that's what's happening this summer. I'll be back in the fall to share a report on our recently ended fiscal year, but we had a very successful one. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that's in the room wishing to testify tonight before I go to Zoom land? I don't see anybody. I do see 941 in Zoom has his hand up.
Hello?
941, the floor is yours.
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good afternoon, Mayor Potter, City Council members. This is Christy Hollenbeck from the Stop Cell Towers in Carmel Neighborhoods Group. I just wanted to say that we have been heartened at the response we've received about our efforts to provide actionable information to residents, planning commission members, and the City Council about drafting a wireless ordinance to protect our community. We were successful in hiring a highly qualified expert on the subject, Andrew Campanelli, and he has provided a best practices ordinance that would allow the city to be in control of where the cell towers should be located. We also have invested in time for him to provide firsthand information to the commission and answer any questions they may have. It is hoped that this will take place when this subject is taken up at a future planning commission meeting and if necessary for the council prior to approval of the final ordinance. We respect the need of staff attorneys to have more time to draft their ordinance, but we hope they are taking our draft into consideration in the process. We request 1 month to review their draft after it is submitted, as we will need more time to review it due to the complexity of the material. We also request as much notice as possible before the next wireless meeting. We want to thank the city for your dedication to making this a thorough process, and to the residents who are supporting this endeavor, which is of critical importance to the future of Carmel. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Is there anybody else wishing to speak tonight? Last call. Anybody else? All right, I'll close the public comment period, moving into announcements. City Administrator, Chip.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I am your acting city administrator. Tonight, Ms. Gullo had a conflict. She apologizes. I wanted to also apologize for last night's the broken link that we had in the agenda. I take full responsibility. Mr. Romero was out last week, so we've fixed that obviously for tonight. It won't happen again. We're well aware of what happened, and again, I apologize on behalf of my team, and I apologize to the public and to you, council. Thank you for coming back tonight. I wanted to thank Monterey Pops for a wonderful 4th of July Independence Day musical celebration in Devendorf Park. It was extremely well attended. We were very, very impressed and grateful. And thanks to our team as well, Public Works, PD, and really most of all, our community activities staff who helped with the event. Our own intrepid Leslie Fenton was there all day helping out and putting out fires, as it were. So thank you to everyone, especially, again, community activities and Ms. Fenton. A reminder, tomorrow night, there's a planning commission. I'm sorry, this is tonight. So there's a planning commission hearing going on right now. So that's being recorded. So if you're watching this council meeting, special council meeting, it's an adjourned regular council meeting tonight. This is what we have tonight, a regular council meeting that was adjourned from last night. We'll be recording that planning commission meeting, which is going on simultaneously. And then lastly, I'm gonna have a real celebration, I think, for our August 2nd meeting. I'm gonna ask all the new staff members, there's about 25 of them that we've hired in the last year, to come and meet you, and we'll do real brief introductions, what department they're working in, and then hopefully, again, the gallery and the council can applaud and thank and shake the new staff members' hands. So I'm really looking forward to that next month, council. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chip. I think we'll all look forward to that. All right, City Attorney, we do not have Brian Pierik with us. We do have Steve McEwen. Steve, do you have anything to report?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, if only by Zoom. City Attorney Brian Pierik has advised me that there's no reportable action from the closed session held on July 11th, 2022. And that's my only announcement.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Council members' announcements. Looking to my right, Jeff? Oh, Carrie?
Yes, thank you, Chip, for mentioning the Monterey Pops on July 4th in the Devendorf Park. It was a wonderful event. So Monterey Pops did a great job. The staff did a great job. So you could see that a lot of people really enjoyed that event. So I think I'm hoping we can make that a tradition. Secondly, I want to congratulate Rachel Lightfoot for retiring from the Carmel Police Force. There was a nice little retirement party this last week, and we appreciate what she's done for our city, and we wish her the best.
Well said. Karen?
I didn't know, but you said everything I was going to say. I did enjoy the Monterey Pops, especially this year. It was very nice. People sit in their seats and they enjoy the music and they bring their picnics, and it's just a great day. And yes, Rochelle's party was a lot of fun. I had no idea Rochelle was a horsewoman and all of the things that she does, and they're going to be very busy in retirement, and it was a very nice invite that we received to help Rochelle go on. I do really look forward to meeting all the new employees. That's going to be really nice. Thank you for doing that. I've met a couple of them already, and they seem to be really great. So, and welcome to Nova. All right.
Excellent. All righty, well, I was not here for the 4th of July. I was back in Massachusetts where I participated in the road race. My wife and I walked it. It was 4.5 miles. Walked it. We came in dead last, which I was hoping we would. Police were behind me telling me to get out of the way, speed it up. They wanted to open the roads up. It took us an hour and 26 minutes to walk 4.5 miles. but we did our part, and it was quite patriotic. But I did hear very good reviews on the pops and everything else that went on in town here, so well done, guys. All right, this brings us on to the consent calendar. There's 10 items on the consent calendar. Looking around by colleagues, is there anybody with a desire to pull anything off the consent? I don't see anybody. Anybody in the public wishing to speak to the consent calendar? I don't see anybody. All right, I'll bring it back, close the public comment period on the consent calendar, bring it back to the council. Council members, your preferences?
Well, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
That'd be lovely.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Nova, could we get a roll call?
Councilmember Barron,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito,
Yes?
Councilmember Tice,
Yes.
Mayor Potter,
Aye.
motion carries.
Excellent. Well done. Okay, this brings us down to, do you want to go, I'll double back one more time and ask, is Catherine Stedman representing the 3 Cs Energy Group in the crowd tonight? I don't see her. No, I don't see her. All right, well, we'll trail that item until next week. We can give them both of those exciting reports together then.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, we have one public hearing item, that is item number 11, which is APP 22-208, me. Consideration of appeal of a planning commission decision to deny an after-the-fact design study application, DS22-135, me. For modifications to design study approval DS1191-128, including a garage change and garage roof material, change of roof material, site coverage, electrical mechanical room, door and window modifications, and a rear deck modification for a single-family residence under construction on Santa Rita Street, 2 southwest of 5th Avenue, single-family residential RD1 district. Marnie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So I apologize for the format of the PowerPoint. I'm not quite sure how to fix that, but good evening. So this evening you'll be hearing an appeal of a planning commission denial of a design study application. The project site's located on Santa Rita Street, 2 southwest of 5th Avenue. So at the June 12th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission approved a design study, which is DS 19128. This was for the construction of a 2-story residence on a vacant lot. In January of 2021, the building permit was issued and the project went under construction. On November 10th of 2021, the Planning Commission approved a site plan modification for the project after some unpermitted tree removals had been done. So the applicant is applying for amendments to that original design study approval that was approved by the Planning Commission. Some of these modifications are after the fact, meaning that they've already been implemented. They include a change in the roof material, which has already been installed, a change to the deck railing, again, already installed, and I'll get into more details about that one later. Change in the south side yard patio, which is yet to be constructed, the addition of an elevator equipment enclosure, an associated door modification to accommodate that enclosure. The door modification has been made, but the enclosure has not been constructed yet. And then also some modifications to the second story deck surface. So these were the amendments that were requested. We took these amendments to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission denied all of them. And that occurred on June 8th of this year. So the applicant has appealed that decision, and it is an appeal in part. So they have agreed to restore the roof area beyond the deck back to its original approved condition, but they are requesting City Council consideration of some of the other modifications. And that includes a change in the roof material from standing seam metal to composition shingle, a change in the south side yard deck from sandset pavers to a wood deck, the addition of the elevator equipment enclosure and the associated door modification. So staff notes that the Planning Commission did approve the project with an elevator, but during the design development, the location for the equipment wasn't identified, hence why this modification is coming up now. And then also the wood railing on the second-story deck, so they are requesting approval of that change. The original railing was an opaque glass. So starting with the roof modification, again, the Planning Commission approved a standing seam metal roof. A metal roof was installed during construction. It was a different manufacturer, and it produced some significant glare to the north neighbor. In response to that, the property owner changed the roof to a asphalt shingle. It is an architectural shingle. It is a triple layer, which is often what the Planning Commission is looking for. However, the color is a charcoal black. The residential design guidelines state that composition shingle may be appropriate when it conveys the color and texture of wood shingle. Normally, staff would not approve this particular color. The Planning Commission also felt that it was a very stark contrast to the body color of the house. Should the council be inclined to approve one or more of these modifications this evening, staff would recommend that if composition shingle is found to be appropriate, that the color be changed to something that is more comparable to the color of wood. The next change requested is that south side yard terrace. So originally it was approved to be a sandset patio, which is semi-permeable. The applicant is requesting to change that to a wooden deck. And also they're asking for a slight reconfiguration of that terrace area. So originally the terrace was designed around 2 trees. Those 2 trees are no longer on the property. So they'd like to straighten out the patio and use the wood deck instead. Again, if the council is inclined to approve this modification, staff does recommend that the deck be spaced and that it be placed directly on top of the soil. And this would allow for it to remain semi-permeable, comparable to the sandset pavers. The next modification is the elevator equipment enclosure. So this enclosure would be located on the south elevation, so adjacent to that south terrace that we just looked at. And then as a result of the enclosure, this would be the associated door modification. Originally, this was a sliding glass door that provided access from a bedroom out onto that south side yard terrace. The enclosure would conflict with the operation of that door. So that door has been changed to 2 fixed windows. And as you can see in the photo, this change has already been mostly implemented. The next modification is the deck railing. So this deck is at the rear of the property. It provides access from the 2nd floor and is over first floor living space. The original proposal for the railing was a combination of glass and cable rail. The Planning Commission approved the project with a special condition that the railing be one consistent material and that material be opaque glass. The applicant would like approval for a wood railing instead. Staff did inadvertently approve this change at a staff level. And I approved it to be board and batten to match the house. I had overlooked the special condition of approval, and I do not have the authority to amend the conditions that the Planning Commission adopts. And so I do apologize to the applicant for that. They have installed the railing. They've added a grid pattern, which they say is easily modifiable and can be changed to board and batten if the council finds that appropriate. Or it is within your authority to require that it go back to the glass, the opaque glass. The Planning Commission specifically did not approve this modification, citing that the design of the railing was very heavy and added mass to the structure. And this photo here just shows a latch that had been installed on the deck. So how this kind of came to our attention was through the neighbors who had contacted us with some concerns that the deck was not being constructed per plan. As we saw on the tour of inspection yesterday, this latch has been eliminated, and this portion of the railing is now fixed. And they're not requesting to make that operable. So we did receive public comments on the proposed amendments in advance of the Planning Commission meeting. The neighbors have expressed from the very beginning, when the project was early in the design development phase, that they had concerns about the second-story deck off the back of the house. The deck is in close proximity to the rear property line, and it does sit up above the neighbors' properties. The Planning Commission, as part of the approval process, did require that the deck be reduced in size, so basically increasing the setback between the deck and the rear property line. That area between the railing and the edge of the roof was supposed to be a roof material that matches the residence. During construction, the contractor or the owner decided to continue the tile material from the deck to the edge of the roof. This helps to waterproof by keeping one consistent material, but certainly was not consistent with the Planning Commission's approval. And the neighbors were concerned that the deck would become larger over time and be used when the Planning Commission specifically had requested it be reduced in size. Also, we received objections to the metal roof because of the excessive glare. And I believe there will be some folks here this evening to comment on that specifically. In denying the change, the Planning Commission did require that they reinstall the metal roof. The neighbors, especially the neighbor to the north, has some concerns about a metal roof going back on this house because of the glare that she had experienced. And then we also received a public comment just regarding the size of the second-story deck. The size is not changing. It is per the approved plan. So staff is presenting the council with two options this evening. Option one, you can deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission's denial of these modifications. So what this would mean is that all the modifications already implemented would need to be removed and restored to the approved design. And then prior to final inspection, staff would inspect all the work to ensure that it is per the approved plan. Option two, the council could grant the appeal either in whole or in part, and with or without conditions. So staff has prepared a draft resolution that includes approval of these requested modifications with some conditions of approval to keep them in line with the residential design guidelines. And this is here, again, a list of the modifications proposed: the roof shingles, south side yard deck, the railing. So under this option, if you were to grant approval of any of the modifications, they would submit for a building permit revision. Those would be reviewed by staff, and then they would proceed with carrying out those improvements. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Marnie by council at this time? Marnie, I'm wondering, the original kind of material that was on was originally proposed for the roof, would that have not had a glare to it?
Correct. It was a more matte gray. It is still a light gray color, but it does have a more matte finish.
Yeah. So the issue of the glare would go away if the right kind of material was put on the roof?
It would definitely be reduced. I don't know that it would be non-existent.
Good. Are there any other questions? Jeff?
Yeah, You mentioned, yep, you mentioned that there was a site plan modification in November of 2021 after the whole trees had been dealt with. What was the nature of that modification?
So during the excavation of the site, some of the roots of the trees that were identified to be preserved were damaged, and those trees had to be removed. So staff went back to the Planning Commission with a site plan modification with the removal of those trees to see if they wanted to amend the approval in any way, but they did not.
So how many trees were lost or damaged or lost or?
I think 3.
And so do the plans that we have in front of us here replace those trees? Or what's the status of the 3-tree deficit now?
That is an excellent question. I would need to check with the city forester. I'm not sure what the replanting requirement is.
I apologize for not asking that. I know I asked a bunch of questions in the past, yesterday, and I apologize for not asking that one. Yeah, there's no site plan in here in the packet. When you start going through that, I've been sitting here flipping through the packet, and that page is missing. Just FYI. And then yesterday at I had asked Brandon about, so what's the square footage of the house right now, with or without the garage?
I believe it is a standard 1,600 square foot house with a 200 square foot garage.
Okay, so I was having a conversation with someone in town a couple of days ago who commented that when they install a bay window, the bay window sort of counts towards their floor plan. So if I have a 1,590 square foot house and I install like 2 bay windows that each has a floor area of 5 feet, those count towards the floor plan, towards the square footage. So so we're being asked to approve an elevator equipment cabinet that basically is a bay window, right? That sticks out over the land. Right, that wasn't in the original. So I had asked Brandon, what is where do we stand with regards to square footage now? And yesterday he stated that the footprint of the bay window, the footprint of the elevator shaft was 12 square feet. So is there 12 square feet of area left in the house?
So I apologize, I don't know the answer to that question. What I would say, and hopefully the contractor could provide a little bit more detail on the dimensions of the enclosure. The enclosure.
I know what sorry, just for expediency. Okay. I know what we had so the dimensions of the enclosure are 3 by 4. So that was what was stated yesterday at the tour. And so my question is not about that. My question is, are they at 1,600 feet for the house, or are they at 1,588 feet for the house? Giving them the 200 feet, or however it is that we do those calculations here, 1,600, 1,800, whatever. Do we have that? So if you're going to talk to me about accommodation, then we'll have that.
I was gonna try to, if I may, sir.
Okay.
Is the equipment enclosure, the 12 square feet, is that counted as floor area or coverage, Ms. Waffle?
So that is what I'm not certain of. If the interior height of that enclosure is less than 5 feet, it would count as site coverage. If it's more than 5 feet, then it would count as floor area.
Okay. So can we have like 5 minutes to figure that out? Those 2 questions, would that be all right, Dave?
Let's see if there's any other questions. Are there any other questions by council?
Yes, I have a question. I asked you yesterday if the cement on the back was part of the approved project.
So it appears that there's an inconsistency in the plan set. The grading and drainage plan shows that area as hardscape. However, the landscape and irrigation plan show plants and irrigation in that area. So The contractor has the option, if they wanted to keep that area as hardscape, they'd have to remove hardscape from somewhere else on the lot so as not to exceed the maximum allowed. But we haven't had that discussion yet as to what approach that they would like to take for that area.
Ms. Waffle, could you remind the council about the maximum amount of coverage on a parcel of this size?
So this is a standard 4,000 square foot lot. They are allowed 556 square feet of site coverage if half of that is either permeable or semi-permeable.
So does that cement area put them over that?
It would if they built out all the other site coverage per plan, because it was not originally contemplated in the 556. Just the landing outside of that door.
Are there any other questions? Well, it's a little early to take a bio break, so we'll take a 5-minute fact-finding break.
Is
We'll
that enough?
return then at 5:36.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Everything else is in here, like here's the first floor. Here's the first floor, here's the second floor, like everything's in there except
Bay windows do, oriel windows where there's a seat, doesn't go all the way to the floor, do not count as a floor area. That's the issue. Your oriel windows?
They have a seat.
They just count as coverage at that point in time? They would count as coverage. Floor area.
But either way, this is.
Yeah. Catherine thought it was at 6 o'clock. So, well, I said I didn't do August because Baron has to leave, we're so close. So she made me just to apologize. This time. It's not time sensitive.
No, it's not a big deal. No, let's just continue.
Okay.
That's all right. No, she doesn't need to speak. Not gonna get a chance. Not gonna get a chance.
No need to apologize.
It's funny though, so Janine was at the lunch in the Tony Antle about the child care initiative, and Catherine was there.
Huh.
He said it was all set last night, I couldn't get in. But I'll be there tonight, I think that's all right.
You see that article about Nina wrote? I sent her a text this morning.
I don't know if she was like a social leader or something.
Yeah,
That's
it was
it.
great. It was brilliant. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Q&A.
Yeah,
Do you read it?
yeah.
It's
Yeah, so the project is currently at the maximum of 1,800 square feet. So it does look like the interior height of that enclosure is more than 5 feet, so it would count as floor area. The contractor could consider whether or not he can reduce that height, and then it would count as site coverage.
Yeah. Jeff, does that answer your question?
And the tree replacement? We just don't know.
I don't have that.
Okay.
All right.
I'd like to clarify something then on the site coverage is over now with the cement that was installed at the back. So they would have to reduce site coverage if they want to keep the cement. And now this will either be site coverage or floor area
Correct.
for the elevator shed.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
So theoretically, the patio would have to get smaller,
Well,
or the driveway.
if I can add to Karen's, Karen's question, that back patio is surrounded by a concrete wall, right? It's not just a patio at grade. I mean, because of the slope of the land, you know, it's surrounded by like a 4-foot wall, right? So it seems like it's gonna be difficult to, what? Just remove that whole structure and have the dirt be just sort of sitting around the house, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, any other questions of Marnie?
The punchline is, council, that we won't approve the house until the coverage is at or below the allowed.
All right, with that clarification, is there a representative of the applicant present, or the applicant himself or herself? Is there a representative of the applicant?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah, the owner and the general contractor are both here, Connie May and Jason Merringer. I'm Jason.
Okay, Jason, how much time do you need? Do you have an organized presentation?
I can go over a couple of the questions real quick, since they're on everybody's mind, maybe, just to, in terms of the trees.
Hold on. Let's figure this out. I'm willing to give you 5 minutes for your testimony if you and the owner would like to combine your testimonies. Otherwise, you guys are limited to 3 minutes apiece.
Okay, I will probably just be me speaking.
All right, do you want to save some time for rebuttal?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, so why don't you, it's just you, why don't you do 5 minutes then? If you want, I mean, you don't feel obligated to take all of that, but.
I'll be as fast as I can.
Okay, good, I appreciate that. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for hearing us today. Thank you, Marnie, for that presentation. I appreciate the work you put into that. Yes, we're kind of just at a point where we're kind of stuck, and we're trying to comply as best we can, and we're trying to appease all the neighbors as best we can, and we're really just hoping for a resolution here tonight. In terms of, I guess I can go through the items. The roofing material, you know, if everything's categorically denied, then we'll put a metal roof back on there if that's what's required. We would prefer not to, just because we know the neighbors really don't want to have that metal roof. I did provide some analysis on the reflected qualities of what was installed and what was approved, and they were within like minuscule differences. So it's going to be the same reflectiveness. And I did provide that information to Marnie way back when we were trying to resolve the glare issue. And we're actually, the whole point of this appeal was to get a resolution on that before we fix the issue with the tile deck roofing, because we want to make sure we go back with the appropriate material. We did discuss at the site visit a compromise with the covered deck to put more of a slope roof, which I think would help dispel the neighbors on somebody wanting to walk out there. And like I said, we'll match whatever material is approved. Let's see, the deck railing, we did request that in a previous design revision where we requested reducing some windows. And we requested to do the wood railing, and it was approved, so that's why we installed it. Like Marnie said, the little cross pieces can easily be removed if not approved. Let's see. Sorry, catch my thought here.
I don't meet her size. It's 18.
Oh, we're not there yet. Okay, the patio terrace on the main level down on the side yard. We'd like to redesign the shape. We'll put pavers or wood, whatever's approved. In terms of accommodating the extra concrete in the back, we could reduce that coverage. In addition, we could shrink the entry path to accommodate those overages. The equipment room, we can explore reducing that height so it's less than 5 feet. And the depth of it, I think if we put wider doors, we can reduce the depth down to inside clear 15 inches plus walls thickness would be around that 18-inch allowable for cantilevered. So it wouldn't cost against floor area ratio or site coverage. So I think we can accommodate those things. We did remove the sliding glass door and put in the smaller windows early, but it was expressed when we did the last request for reducing window sizes that's typically acceptable. So we apologize for doing that before approval, but we're hoping you can see our reasoning there. Let's see. How are we doing on time here? I think
about 30 seconds.
Okay, I think that kind of covers everything. And like I said, thank you very much for your time. And we apologize for, there was some confusion on some things, but we certainly didn't intend to overstep ourselves here.
All right, thank you, Jason. I appreciate your testimony. I'll leave you 2 minutes for rebuttal, too.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else in the public wishing to speak? I'll look in the room here first. Is there anybody in the room wishing to speak to this item? Please come forward, state your name for the record. There's 3-minute testimony. Dale, we're going to go to people in the room first.
Pardon me?
Yes, you're first.
I was here first, right? Yeah, okay. This is new to me, but I have a real concern with the roof on the house. I am in the property on the corner of Santa Rita and Fifth, and the back of my house has a deck and Miss May's property and mine are side by side. She's a neighbor. When they first placed the metal roof on the house, it was obvious from the get-go that it was, the glare that it produced was just, it was blinding. And I can only equate it to when you're driving your car and the sun's blaring through the windshield and you can't see properly. Well, that's how severe the glare was. After a few days, I called Marnie Waffle. We spoke about it, and she was checking the plans so she could determine exactly what the roofing material was supposed to be. And before she got back to me, a crew came in and removed the metal roof, and then started installing the composition roof that is currently on the house. That roof is so much better in terms of, there is no glare off of that. It matches better with the other roofs in the neighborhood. The appearance is just was immensely improved. But it is very, very dark, and it's my understanding that the ruling from the Planning Commission is now to remove that roof and replace it again with the metal roof. And I personally, from having seen that on the house, strongly object to that. My suggestion would be that I think would be acceptable is if the Planning Commission wants the roof that's on the house removed, since Miss May put it on prior to approval, then an even better solution would be to put a lighter colored roof on the house, but stay with composition shingles. So that's my suggestion, and that was the only issue I wanted to speak with you regarding.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony. You got it done in 3 minutes, too. Well done. Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to this item tonight?
Hey, good evening. My name is Richard Hewitt. My wife Kelly and I live due west of this construction process. For 37 months, we've been watching non-compliance and not following the rules, and it is time to bring this to a conclusion. We agree with the Baker residents, have some sort of roof that supports that, but if we're putting the same thing on that back deck area, make sure that it's sloped, because what we know right now is we put in tile, unauthorized, and we put in a gate. You don't need a gate unless you're planning on walking on the tile. As you saw yesterday on your site tour, you're looking right into our backyard, our deck, our guest bedroom, and our master bath. Miss May engaged me in conversation yesterday afternoon. That's how close we are. Not much farther than you and I are, Mayor. She didn't need to raise her voice. They are right on top of us. If that whole deck is usable, we've stopped our problem. You all have, as I see it, 2 decisions. You got a decision on the exact appeal here. You got a decision on what precedent you're setting. Do you want more chaos or do you want more compliance? Because you're going to get one or the other based on your decision here to either support the Planning Commission or overturn in whole or in part. I have trust and confidence you will make the correct decision. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Hewitt, appreciate your testimony. Is there anybody else?
Hello, Karen Gelf, Carmel resident, neighbor, in fairly close proximity to the project. Of course, I was tragically seeing the trees in the beginning of the project, many of them that were beautiful to our canopy. Those were lost. Didn't really set a great tone. I hope that they comply with whatever they, on the trees at least, to redeem the trees that were lost on that property. Also, I am not in favor of the metal roof. The property is below grade of not only the other properties or houses, but of the street. Even if you're walking by, the glare from that roof was really an obstruction for just, it's a nice street that a lot of visitors walk up and down. So I think that just due to the way it sits, it's really not appropriate to have a metal roof on this property. So I am in favor of a comp roof if you would be allowing that. And thank you again for hearing us here. I think that's basically that's the main concern. The other thing I would say is, of course, I know a lot of other people that are doing projects. They go out of their way to comply. I think it sends the wrong message if everybody can do what they want to do and then kind of apologize. So I think this is opportunity to send a message to other people that we do care, and it is important that you stay with the guidelines, and that's only fair to other projects that do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak?
Hello, Council. My name's Chris Mack. I'm here to speak on this project. I agree with all the previous speakers about the metal roof. versus composition roof. The metal roof is absolutely unacceptable. I think when this was approved back a number of years ago, the Planning Commission didn't have as much experience with metal roofs and their reflectivity. So personally, I don't really care for them on most of the houses visually, and with a glare problem like the one the first speaker spoke of. It's like when you get a reflection off a windshield, it really is blinding, and I experienced that myself. Let's see, just clarification for you, Jeff, on the trees. I think we lost 5 trees because of that project, not 3, or not 2 that are on the site plan, but I think 3 of them were on the other property. So that was, this project has had a lot of problems for a long time. I agree with the design of multiple houses in the city for many years. I know what it takes to comply. It's not that difficult. You just have to follow the rules. It's pretty simple. Site coverage, square footage, projections. They're not that difficult. This equipment thing should have been thought out before. If they can get rid of it by put the equipment thing in there by reducing the site coverage, and it doesn't count as floor coverage, then that's a pretty easy solution. It's a balancing act of numbers. But the big thing is the roof. And, like it was suggested, have her tear off the roof, put a lighter colored composition roof or wood roof on. If the Planning Commission, I think it's their ultimate decision to, or is it yours for the color? Color seems to be a sticking point there. As far as neighbors, the black roof, I know it's not normal, but a metal roof is absolutely unacceptable, and you'll hear about it. Won't be the last time. So if you want to deny everything except for leave the roof alone, I watched the Planning Commission meeting, and some of the commissioners were like, well, let's just leave the roof there, and one was like, no, let's deny everything. I'm tired of this project. And I understand their position on this project because they've seen it a lot, and it comes back to them with things that have already been built without asking first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to speak? I don't see anybody. I'll open it up to Zoom world. Is there anybody in the Zoom world that would like to speak to this item tonight?
Yeah, hi, my name is Harry Herbst. I'm the neighbor to the north and west from the home. And everything that's been said, I think I also concur with. It doesn't matter to me whether, and if the neighbors to the north in particular prefer the composite roof, it's not a problem from our perspective. Since we're slightly to the north and west, our concern has been that deck all along. And to the extent that anything that can be done that otherwise gets it back to what it was is what we want. We want that slope as well, because we don't want some future, either her or some future owner to come in there with the same idea that thinks it's a good idea a year or two from now, and we have to go through this rigmarole again. We just want it to be done. And we also think that all this stuff, everything that seems to be going on here revolves to essentially consequences for basically unauthorized actions. And we think that, it's appropriate under the circumstances to sort of be mindful of the dynamics that have been created, not by us. And certainly we've never been contacted by the builder or by the owner or anyone else in terms of appeasing us, in terms of what our needs were and why. We've never had any conversations with anybody. No one's tried to reach out to us. So, our venue has always been this situation, which is really an unfortunate dynamic, but that's the way it is. And the decision's been reached, and, we'll see. Thank you for your time. And I guess that's it from my side.
Thank you, Harry. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? I'll ask again, is there anybody else in the Zoom world wishing to speak tonight? I don't see anybody. All right. All right, Jason, I'm going to close the public comment, but I'll bring it back. Jason, you have 2 minutes to rebut anything if you would like.
Okay, thank you very much. I just, clarification on the trees. I believe one tree on the neighbor's property was lost, and then 2 on the property were lost, and the arborists, we have the agreement, and we have to replace 2 trees for each tree that was lost. They don't necessarily have to be, I think 2 will be on the neighbor's property, and they don't necessarily have to be on the property, but we have to coordinate with the arborists as to where those will be placed. That is in the works. That will happen. One of the trees, a 4th tree was lost, and that was by the arborist. She required it to be taken down. So yeah, it wasn't 5 trees, just to clarify.
Is that your rebuttal, Len?
Some of the patio at the back.
Yeah, and like the neighbors are saying about the extended tile, we don't have a problem with the making that a roofed surface, sloped surface. And of course, leaving the wood railing would lend itself to that buildability as opposed to the glass. So if you can consider all those things, we'd appreciate it. And
It's not good.
yeah, and we don't really like the metal roof either. So, okay, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close the testimony then, bring it back to council for questions, deliberations. I could set the tone, I guess. This kind of falls under the heading of asking for forgiveness instead of permission for me. I think we've seen this before, and I do think we tasked the Planning Commission with making tough recommendations to us. I think this was a strong recommendation. I do understand the community's, the neighbors' concerns about the roofing material, but I would rather go back to a comp, but a softer tone, more of a gray texture that's consistent with our guidelines. That'd be about the only variation I'd want to allow. Other than that, I'd be prepared to move denial. Jeff?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a bunch of comments. Start with, like Dave, I'm really reluctant to sort of second guess what the Planning Commission did. I think that the roof is maybe an exception here. Maybe we have the opportunity to learn something from what happened at the beginning. But as far as everything else goes, you know, we have a body in town that makes these difficult design decisions, and it's really difficult for me to sort of put myself in that seat. I did go back and watch the hearing. You know, we have a list of all of the things that the Planning Commission, we have a list of all the things in the agenda packet that we were supposed to talk about. And I did go back and, like I'm sure everybody did, watch the Planning Commission hearing. And in spite of the tone of the hearing, the sort of dismissive tone of the hearing, there was a pretty good debate about all of the things that are listed here, with the exception, and hence my questioning, of the mechanical room. So there was a healthy debate about the roof, the color of the roof, whether it was good, whether it was not good. There was a pretty healthy debate about the deck, and as an aside, I think the deck, you know, is just problematic that there's no change in grade at all. So I think we should do something about that. There was a pretty healthy debate about the opaque glass railing, and I feel like the city is unfortunately really in a sticky spot here. There was a healthy debate about, there was a debate about the 288 square foot permeable paver South Yard terrace. So they talked about the change in elevation of the terrace, the redwood deck versus the floor. I thought the only thing that was really missed was the mechanical room, and I think we've sort of addressed that, the mechanical room and the effect on the square footage. And I would also point out that there was one thing that wasn't in the Planning Commission staff report, and I don't think, Marnie, it was in our staff report either. It was about the sort of the colors of the house and the colors of the window frame and the colors of the roof, and how all that stuff is supposed to sort of blend into the forest. And there was a pretty substantial disapproval by the Planning Commission of the sort of color scheme and the way that it has turned out. You know, the windows were supposed to have been painted white, and it's, you know, just, I believe to match the house. And instead the windows are black, and the roof is now black, and the house is a lighter color white, and it sort of gives this sort of tuxedo effect on, you know, on how the house sticks up. And I talk a lot about how I personally talk a lot about the requirement in our guidelines that houses fit into the forest or into the neighborhood in which they are a part. And this house, because of the color, does not do that. It really sticks out. It really just sticks out because of the painting. So that's a real problem. So I also share, there was a good debate. There was a good discussion at the Planning Commission about, I guess from Brandon and one of the commissioners, about there's no double fee on the planning permits. You know, they get socked with a double fee on the building permits if they go back and ask permission later, but there's no double fee on the planning permits. So I'll just stick my oar in here and say we should definitely have penalties for behavior like this. So I thought, you know, there was a as I watched the hearing, I was a little bit concerned that I was a little bit concerned about the sort of roller coaster of the hearing and how the hearing sort of progressed. But I would point out that at the beginning of the hearing, Commissioner Locke did talk about a lot of the requirements before the roller coaster got going. And she expressed a willingness to sort of give and take on the requirements significantly more than two of the other commissioners were willing to do. But in the end, the commission did vote to deny everything on the application. So I agree with Dave, and I would start with that. Start with that sort of absolute denial that the commission made. The commission made. The roof is a problem for me. I know that the neighbors don't like it, and the problem I'm having here is that the black is not an approved roof. Like, no one approved the black color. So I think it's pretty clear. I think it's, you know, certainly is to Dave and myself that the black needs to go. And the question is what to do. The question is, like, how do we fix the, how do we sort of get sort of an appropriate roof on there, given that I suspect the house is going to be repainted and the windows are going to be repainted. And I really don't know what to do. That we have an approved roof, which is the matte gray roof. And the original one, not the one that was installed, but the one that was approved by the Planning Commission. And it's difficult to tell whether that matte as opposed to shiny roof would have the same effect on the neighbors. You know, now that we've discovered that there's a problem because of the topography, that the house is sort of in the canyon and the neighbors are above, and now that we've discovered that there's this issue with this particular metal, you know, the metal roof that was installed, it's difficult for me to know, like, what to do, like whether to go back to the original metal roof and just give that a go. But that really doesn't seem like the right thing to do, because that's just like shooting ourselves in the foot, since we have all this information. So my inclination would be to send the roof back to the Planning Commission, or give the applicant the option of either installing the metal roof or waiving Planning Commission fees for them to just go back to the Planning Commission and have a discussion about the roof. Like, I would rather them do it and have more study and have a hearing on the roof and decide what to do, especially since we're in the middle of this design review process, revision process, other than us just deciding, you know, make it brown. Like, that seems a little arbitrary for me.
I'd agree. I think that's the smart idea, is to go ahead and send it back to the Planning Commission, with the understanding that they would come up with a type of roofing that would be either to go back to the original and decide that works, because of the fact that there seems to be debate about the consistency of the materials, or the lack of consistency, the glare factor, and go ahead and say to the Planning Commission, Council wants you to go ahead and deal with the roofing materials to address the concerns of the community, the neighbors. I think that's within our purview.
Yeah. Is that so? That's where I sort of am. The trees, I would say that I find the whole tree thing distressing. I don't, you know, I would hope, and obviously we don't have that information now, that the whole tree the tree issue would have been resolved at that Forest and Beach Commission hearing, or one of those Planning Commission hearings where they dealt with the big fine and the replacement of the trees. So I'm going to assume that was happened, and if that didn't happen, then you know, it did happen. So the replacement trees are in the plans, and, okay, so that's a relief.
Would you like to know what they are?
No, as long as, I mean, I say that with all sincerity, like, as long as we have sort of, as long as the city has accomplished its process, I'm okay with whatever that process was. In the same way that I personally am sort of okay with the way that the planning commission, you know, this is the planning commission's deal. Let's let them do it. And if someone dealt with the trees, then I'm okay with that, as long as it didn't fall through the cracks.
Karen?
Yes, this is a very distressing situation, and it's been distressing since literally 2019. It started with the trees, which were destroyed by letting people from out of town who didn't know what they were doing go in there with heavy equipment, and it's gone downhill since. I am inclined to uphold the Planning Commission's denial, but I'm also concerned about this extra square footage or extra site coverage, and I want that resolved as well. And I'm more sympathetic to the neighbors about a composition roof, because I think that several people have mentioned that, but I think your idea of letting the Planning Commission deal with the color is good. This stark black against white is a Joanna Gaines Home and Garden TV farmhouse look, and it is starting to proliferate in our town, and I think this is an example of it. The house now shouts out at you as you walk by. It does not assimilate into the neighborhood whatsoever, and no amount of landscaping or trees can make that happen. I'm sorry the applicant is going to have to do a lot of this work over. Definitely there should be the sloped roof extension of the deck, and the deck railing is very, very heavy. That's too bad that got approved, because I think that does add to the mass and bulk of this property. So what I hope is learned from this is you must ask permission. You cannot beg for forgiveness afterwards when you break the rules so consistently. And this, you know, the lesson should have been learned at the trees and not have gone on to this extent.
Carrie? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. You know, the builder and the owner have put us in a tough position, and we don't appreciate that. And I think these people have built homes in Carmel before. They should know better. So I'm inclined, what I want to say about the roof is we've had an instance where a similar roof has been tried. It's too glaring for this location. I think we need to, if we take it back to the Planning Commission, we need to say we want a composition roof.
Fine.
And that we don't want the glaring roofs or metal roof. I think we need to be specific about that. Because it's already been tried and tested here in terms of a metal roof with that house in this location. So I would like us to be specific. I agree with my other council members. I'm not up here to decide what the color of the roof be. Can we also ask them to change the house color? Or does that have to, has that already been specified with the plans?
So they have not asked to change the house color. So before final inspection, they'll need to demonstrate that the color is per the approved plan.
Okay, good. All right. So, so I would agree with the Planning Commission and then send it back for a look on the color of the composition of the roof.
So the motion, council, would be to deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission decision with the condition that the Planning Commission, that the applicant return to the Planning Commission to review an asphalt shingle color that fits into the forest and neighborhood.
And I would like to
Well, yeah.
add to that this that it be in compliance with square footage and site coverage.
Yes, ma'am, that's
Yeah,
understood.
and then Karen also brought up something that I sort of agreed with, which was concern about the deck. Like, you know, that when we were at the site, you know, the applicant had sort of a mock-up of how to put a roof on a deck. Do you remember that? There was a triangle, there was like a triangular cross-section. And it seems to me like something should be done to sort of prevent the deck from sort of surreptitiously being larger. But I don't know that again, you know, I don't know that is particularly the right solution. So I would send sort of, in addition to the composition roof color question and the site coverage question, I would send the deck roof extension question back. So I'd send like those three questions back to the Planning Commission. And I'm assuming the colors will get ironed out like that. I'm assuming that will come up when the roof comes up and all that.
Yeah, so the deck roof solution to prohibit access, the composition asphalt shingle colors, and I'm sorry, sir, what was the third one? You said three.
The site coverage.
The site coverage, yeah, the site coverage is, yeah. Now, again, by denying the appeal, the proposal to add a raised or at floor level grade redwood deck would be denied. So they would have to step down into that patio area where we were standing yesterday, so it would lower the profile so people couldn't see into the property owner to the south.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's been conversation about the neighbors about privacy and whatnot, and and I'm afraid that the issue of having the deck elevated off the ground will result in some, so without that sort of being the subject of hearing, I think I agree with the Planning Commission, we should go back to the deck on the ground.
Okay, so Marty, are you clear on the motion? You want to come up and state it, please, man?
Is Nova?
Yeah.
I can recite it back, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be good.
So the motion by Councilmember Tice, seconded by Mr. Barron, is to deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission decision, and then require the applicant to return to the Planning Commission to seek approval of a deck roof solution that would prohibit access, or certainly sitting or chairs, to approve a composition asphalt shingle roof color, a removal of the black, the stark black color, a color that more adequately fits into the forest, that the site coverage be at or below the allowed square footage, and that the house color be consistent with the approval as well. And of course, the tree planting requirements and all the other requirements will be required as well.
All right. All right, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else? What about the ability for them to commence work on those portions? I think they should be able to go ahead and work on the corrections.
For the cement?
Yeah.
That Karen brought up?
Yeah, anything that's been denied that has to be repaired, like the railing, those kind of things.
Yes, that would, yeah, so they would, again, Mr. Barron is exactly correct. We will correct the fact that there's not design review, more punitive, or any punitive fees for design review changes like this in the future. But the building permit fees will be doubled, and there's a $500 re-review fee on the building side for those improvements. And then you're correct, Mr. Mayor, they would be able to continue to work on those aspects of the project that have been denied by the council tonight. And they could not make any of the improvements on those areas that are going back to the Planning Commission for review, Mr. Mayor.
Just wanted that for clarity.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. So, thank you, I'll be brief. I am a little torn about the roof. I think I'm mostly because I do believe that that's the Planning Commission's purview, but I think also that but I still will be supporting the motion. I also think that this is a really interesting issue, and I know that we have this design guideline stuff sort of going on in the background, and I know I've spoken myself to Nori about the different perspectives that people have on houses in our sort of hilly environment. And sometimes, you know, I think this is the perfect example of what I spoke to him about, which is that the roof appears differently to people at different elevations, and and this is important. And I don't know what the solution is here, but I think that is something to be worked into the guidelines. That's it.
All right, the motion, we have a second, we have had discussion. Nova, would you call a roll, please?
Sure. Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Councilmember Tice?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All righty, well, thank you for that effort, guys, I appreciate that. That then pretty much ends our work for this evening, unless there's anybody who would like to add something to the future agenda. We do have a closed session we'd adjourn to, but is there any other desires to add anything to the future agenda? I don't see anything. All right, we'll go to closed session. If there's anything to report out, we'll report out at the end of the meeting.
I can read
or-
it. I think we need to read
Yeah,
this
read it
into
in.
closed session, Mr. Mayor.
That'd be good.
I can do that if it's okay with our city attorney, acting city attorney. We're going to closed session to talk about this conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case. I don't see anyone in the gallery, Mr. Mayor, to make comment. I don't know if there's
Anybody in
anyone
the Zoom land that wants to comment on this item? I don't see anybody. All righty, we will go to closed session.
We still have people in
No,
Yeah.
We're going to go to closed, physically
We're not
go to
gonna
closed
stay here,
session,
are
aren't
we?
Yeah, we'll just stay here.
Okay.
You want to close the door?
Yeah, thank you,
All
thank
right.
you.
And do you need me for a part of this?
No, sir, no, thank you.
So let's, Lucinda Lloyd, Bill Byrne, Jason, you guys need to move on. Thank you.
Good night.
Toodaloo.
Let me just make sure that.
Can you kick them out?